I'm Hazel, it's Saturday today, which makes it time to sit down and catch up on the WoW news of the week, what I have been up to, and answer some of your questions. This week, Blizzard surprise dropped a new mount as part of the Wrath Classic release promotion, I suppose. It looks like this. It is the Frostbrood Proto-Wyrm, and it is completely free to obtain as long as you have an active WoW subscription. So in order to get this, what you need to do is make a Death Knight on Wrath of the Lich King Classic. You do not need to have a max level tune first as long as you are not creating this on a new realm. If you are just planning on doing this for the sake of the mount, then it doesn't really matter whether or not you choose a PvP realm. That's totally fine because you're not going to be flagged for PvP in the starting zone anyways. You just want to play through the starting experience until you reach Stormwind or Orgrimmar, turn in the final breadcrumb quest of Varian or Thrall, and then the next time that you log into Retail WoW, you will have the mount. The whole thing takes approximately 2 hours, one if you're very fast, and more than that if you are taking your time, and there's no purchase required outside of the standard WoW sub, which is kind of nice. The mount itself is a pretty cool version of a Proto-Drake, complete with the teeny tiny little T-Rex arms, and whether or not you're playing Wrath Classic, this is a pretty easy and perhaps nostalgic thing to do for an afternoon. Other news this week, I got around to checking out this new Dragonflight UI update on beta, and I will say the new unit frame looks pretty nice. It's modern, it gets the job done. You can choose to have either percentage or number text or both on it, just like with the current frame, but it is more readable. I will say though that at this stage in the game, I'm pretty bummed that the nameplates are not done. So just for reference, this is the unit frame. These are the nameplates, and these have not changed from live, and they have not changed in a very long time. At this point in Dragonflight development, it seems increasingly likely that they go live like this. And I want to be clear, it's not going to ruin my life. This isn't the end of the world. It just means that I'm going to continue using a nameplate add-on, whereas the other updates to the UI are kind of replacing other add-ons for me. It just seems so strange to leave such a key part of the interface so dated and in the past when everything else looks so much more modern and clean. You can still choose to have them bigger if you want, and you can still choose whether or not you'd like them to overlap or stack, but nothing changes this default text color that matches the bar color, and like the default red for aggro mobs is difficult to read against like these messy, like visually busy backgrounds. And then of course the bar has all of like the skeuomorphic shading of 2000 and whatever, we've moved on by now. I would love to see a blue post or like a note in the patch notes, and maybe there was one that I missed, and if so, please point it out to me. Just something indicating whether they intend to change the nameplates before Dragonflight, or maybe after Dragonflight, or maybe they're happy with them as is and they're not planning any changes. I'm just really curious where they're at, because I had my hopes up that they would do something there so that I could get rid of another add-on, and I'm starting to lose that hope a teeny tiny bit. Other news from beta this week, we learned about starter builds, which is a new thing with the new Dragonflight talents. Available for evokers at first, it's basically a preset kind of cookie-cutter talent build provided by Blizzard that is suitable for most content. Currently available for evokers on beta and coming for all classes eventually. I think this is a great idea that I can really see myself making use of, especially on alts that I'm not planning on playing a ton of, but I want to use to farm things, and should definitely help new players kind of like get into the action and get going, because I can see how it might be a little bit intimidating for somebody to be confronted with the full talent tree, both class and spec, for something they have no context for, and being expected to spend all those points effectively before you actually go and start fighting things, especially if you're starting with like a boosted tune. That's a lot, and I think these starter builds are a great solution to that problem. There's definitely no guarantees that it's going to be the best build for any situation, and of course you can always go back and play with your points later, but having something at least to start with I think is really smart. Speaking of classes in Dragonflight, classes and talents are still under iteration. There's new fixes and changes coming out every week, and the pre-patch is now on the public test realm. That means that you do not need to be invited to the Dragonflight beta in order to test new Dragonflight talents. You just need an active standard sub, and then you can get yourself into the PTR and start playing with your main, but like with new talents to see how that feels. Evokers, unfortunately, are not currently on PTR, so this would be to test existing classes, but you can copy your character over, see how your main feels, and that is available to anybody that has an active WoW sub. You do not need to be particularly invited. To get into PTR, I believe you need to add like a test account to your regular WoW account, and then you'll have a download show up in your launcher under the dropdown where betas and classic and stuff is. I will link this article that I'm showing right here in the description below this video. And then in my life this week, I had some very refreshing time off. There was quite a bit of travel, but I made it. I I was very happy to see my kitty cat again when I got home. I missed her, but I had a very nice time and she was in good hands with my mom and my sister. And then my birthday was really lovely the other day too. I spent that at home with my family. That was really special. I haven't gotten to do that in a long time. I am now officially 30 and so far so good. I'll keep you posted. And questions from this week, Andrew wants to know, with the auction houses now being connected and the majority of items selling within seconds of being listed, why do people still feel the need to undercut and start a spiral with prices going down even further? So this might be more of like a sociological question, but someone perhaps might not think their item's worth very much. They might have the perception, accurate or otherwise, that they can get rid of like more of their items or get rid of them faster by posting them cheaper. Or they might be manipulating the market. Somebody could post their chunk of items for substantially lower than everybody else's. And then other people come in and start just mindlessly undercutting them. And then the devious person that did this in the first place would buy out those things that just got undercut and then potentially cancel their own auction and reset the entire thing back up to the previous price and therefore make a profit. It is definitely riskier to do that than it used to be before they connected all of the realms, but I assure you it is still happening. And then Cheezers wants to know, how is the Drakthir class so far? I'm very excited to try it when Dragonflight releases. So I would say, just from my first impressions, it feels very satisfying to play, partly because you've got really interesting synergies in the talents that let you kind of specialize in different abilities and make those feel more exciting, and partly because you've got like these really impactful new spell visuals that are just different from everything that we've seen before, and it feels not quite like existing classes while still feeling like it belongs in WoW, which I feel like was a difficult target to hit that I think they've done a good job on. People ask me all the time what I feel like evokers are the closest class to, and it's a really hard question to answer, and it's hard to make more than just like a passing comparison on a specific thing, because they really do feel like their own thing. I know that's not a terribly helpful answer to tell you how they feel, but I'm excited for when Prepatch finally comes out and you can make your own, because I think you're going to really like it. I definitely do. I definitely have some concerns about the whole mid-range thing and about most of their abilities being kind of this 25-yard range. But I will say that for questing, when you're just out there on your own, that doesn't really matter because most things are in melee with you anyways. In dungeons, it mostly doesn't matter because dungeon fights tend to be within pretty close quarters anyways. The only arena that I haven't really tried them out in yet and that could potentially really show that weakness, I think, is raiding. And for that, we'll just have to wait and see. But that was my main concern, and it hasn't been a big issue for me so far on beta. And then Aiden wants to know, for somebody coming back to Shadowlands, I've been feeling very overwhelmed in what I should be doing to prep for Dragonflight. Like, should I keep doing Korthia stuff? Do you have any recommendations or must-dos, general tips for returning players? So, to prep for Dragonflight, what you're doing right now in Zereth Mortis is going to do you just fine. You can sprinkle in Season 4 world bosses, so whenever there's a Fated raid, the matching world boss will drop 284 loot, so if Sanctum of Domination is Fated, then Morgeth will drop 284. If Sepulchre is Fated, then Antros will, and then if it's Nathria, then it's like one of the 4 original Zen world bosses. The main reason you might have to engage with earlier content such as Korthia would be cosmetics, like if you wanted the transmog sets or the mounts or the pets. That's also something you can go back and do later though, so you don't necessarily need it for Dragonflight, it's just kind of something to do. The truly time-sensitive things here are things like the AOTC mount, the Keystone Master mount, and the Slime Cat mount. Those are limited time rewards, and those are only available during Season 4 at this point. We do not have a concrete date on when Season 4 is going to end, but certainly before Dragonflight. The AOTC mount is for killing the Jailer in Heroic difficulty, the Keystone Master mount is for getting 2000 Mythic Plus rating in the current season, and the Slime Cat mount is for clearing all of the Fated raids on normal or higher, while they're fated, obviously. How much you stress yourself out about getting those kind of depends on how important getting every specific one is to you, or how important it is to you to get like every single mount. I used to worry a lot more about those things, and I still do, but I've kind of come to realize that just because something's available for a very limited time doesn't mean that you necessarily need it. That's like a very common kind of marketing strategy to get people to want things, just to say you can't get it later. So I would say, yes, if you want them, then absolutely go for it. But if it's going to be a big problem and it's going to be a huge amount of stress, then don't freak yourself out about it too much, just because there's going to be new things to collect in the future. There's plenty of other mounts to ride. And at the end of the day, when you're looking back in your life, you're probably not going to be filled with regret over whether or not you got the Season 4 Keystone Master mount if it wasn't something that you had planned to do already. And that has been the week. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions for a news video, please pop it in the comments and include the word question to help me find it. Appreciate you guys, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.